Good evening, everybody. Welcome to VIDS on the Fly number 6. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Once again, I'm on the road heading home from work to bring you some more product there. I know I promised that I'd have a podcast up for you last night and possibly tonight. However, due to working and getting things done, time is an issue. So this is basically my driving home spiel on the ridiculous performances of our leaders in regards to selecting a new Liberal leader. Okay? Past couple days, everyone's been hyped up about Mr. Carney being on the frickin' television with Jon Stewart. And, I used to have a lot of respect for Jon Stewart because he was down-to-earth comedian. But prior to COVID and during the first Trump years, he was like every other lefty, worrying about Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump that. So, I got tired of him pretty quick. I got tired of a lot of these talk show hosts pretty quick. Now, what gets me is that we've seen Justin Trudeau, our beloved former pseudo-resigning prime minister, okay, he's been on American television now claiming his case against Mr. Trump. And now Mark Carney, Mr. Gifted extraordinaire economist, who is a firm believer in the carbon tax. That's why they call him Carbon Tax Carney. He was on television with Jon Stewart talking about his experiences and what have you. And what I'll do, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave the links in the description for you guys to follow at your leisure, right? But we're just seeing all this hype and hype and hype and hype and hype about how Mr. Carney is this, Mr. Carney is that. And yet, from his time from Goldman Sachs and, of course, being one of the governors or the governor of the Bank of England and, being chummy with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former lover, mistress, secretary / slave trader, it's kind of hard to see and trust any of them, right? We've seen what the Liberal brand has done to our country. We've seen what the Liberal brand is doing to our friends down in the States. We've seen what the Liberal brand is doing to our friends in Britain. Now, I'm not trying to disenfranchise the actual meaning of the word liberal, but you've all seen what the so-called liberalism has done to us on a regular basis. Right? Spending money that they don't have by taking it from us, giving it away in the name of this, in the name of that, and virtue. And when I look at this race that's supposed to happen, it's like, okay, now we got time out from governing to actually give a shit about the country. Now you're getting some mixed signals here, okay? Karina Gold, whatever her position is now, I forget, she changes her positions like I change socks. No pun, right? But she's barely even 40 years old. And she has all these great ideas about standing up for Canada because she loves her country and all this. And yet when she was first elected, and especially prior to the pandemic and during the pandemic, she spent something roughly about $300,000 of Canadian taxpayers' money in order to investigate dissidents or investigate conservatives who are against the COVID thing. There's a story in Western Standard about that. I went through it briefly today. I didn't really read a lot of it because I was working, so I shouldn't be, doing my podcast while I'm working. Boss doesn't like that. So I try not to do that. But it was interesting to see how much influence she had in trying to find out who's against the political regime. She reminds me a lot of 1984, right? Let's enforce this, let's enforce that. It was her and Stephen Guilbeault back, I think, in 2018 that discussed about censorship, that discussed the pros and cons of it, who encouraged that kind of behavior. And that's one thing I don't tolerate is censorship, ladies and gentlemen, and I think you do too. And regardless of what the news says about Mr. Mark Zuckerberg getting rid of his fact checkers, and how the government has, the Biden administration has given him a hard time, he was all part of it too. Because every censor out there makes some money off of telling people like me and you what to see and what to do. There's always some kickback or some kind of payola to get people going. So as I sit here driving home, again, another evening, it's 5:01 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, right? I look at all these clowns spending our money, and I look at all these individuals who claim that they're there for the people. So it'll be interesting to see the next couple of months how the leadership race is going to kick out for the Liberal brand. All right? This Monday, Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. Okay. So we'll see what's going to happen to that. And luckily we have politicians like Danielle Smith, who is doing her best to negotiate with the man. Doing her absolute best to negotiate with the man. So, which is a blessing to its own, because we need that. Excuse me. And like I've said numerous times, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't like the man, you don't like the man. You know? And he looks after the states. He wants what's good for the American people. We've got politicians somewhere up here who wants good things for the Canadian people. Okay? Like Danielle Smith. Now, Doug Ford kind of acts like it, but then he talks tough too. And my question to all the Doug Fords and all the new Karina Golds and all the new Patriots out there, where was your dedication during the pandemic? Where was your dedication during the administrative and bureaucratic blunders that the Ontario government put together and the federal government put together prior and during and after the pandemic? All right? Now you're all talking how this country is great and strong. The country's always been great and strong. The country has always been an affordable force on the world stage. And I'm not talking through military might. We got to work on that. But I am talking through social, and I'm talking through humanitarian, and just trying about all around decent fucking human beings. Right? Just a reminder too, folks, if you like to hear what you see, click like, subscribe, share this content, all of your social media platforms. And I will have a podcast up this weekend properly. Okay? But like I said, time constraints. So this is what I can do for you all right now, just rambling off the top of my head. Right? But I know I changed my beard. I got rid of it. I started doing this. So when you start doing that, it's time to shave it. And I dyed it a bit. So got to get that Fu Manchu rock and roll look. Anyhow, I'm digressing here. When I look at this leadership race, it's not really a race. It's just smoke and mirrors. Krista Freeland's going to throw her hat in, apparently. Like I said, Karina Gold. And they can't be trusted. They can't be trusted because, like the ad Pierre Poilievre has put out, they're all Justin, just different faces. They all want to do the same thing. They all want to spend, they all want to borrow, and they all want to ding us for the bill. Right? One can say that because of this prorogation, that there's no legislation getting passed. In a way, that's a good thing. Because of the big one, Bill C-263, the big censorship bill. Right? Thank God that's not being looked after, and whatever the private members' bills were laid out. That putz Charlie Angus from the NDP, he wanted to put a bill in to stop big oil from advertising. Because, you know, you're treating it like cigarettes. Oh my God, we can't advertise cigarettes anymore. How dare you? The big government forgets they get the big bucks from the big companies too. So in a way, you weren't doing anybody a favor. You're just slapping and tickling people in the name of looking like you give a shit. After spending 20 years in fucking Parliament, wasting my time and wasting everybody else's time, Chuck. So that's the thing. When you look at a guy like Charlie Angus, you think that guy used to be a punk rocker? Well, what was he singing about? You know? But thank God that won't go through. And Mr. Justice Minister Arif Avriani, toting his virtue. Oh, look what we did. We created bail reform. Yeah, sure you did. Catch and release. That's not bail reform. That's just fucking laziness. You know? So, in these trying times, ladies and gentlemen, it's good we got to stay focused on the prize, because Parliament should be back, hopefully, by the 24th of March. So we got more politicians on bigger holidays getting a big paycheck. For what? Mediocre? Who knows? But it is getting more and more difficult to really, really trust what's out there and to really start caring, you know? To really start caring who's going to call the shots for this nation. Like I said, you know, the pearl countries out there worrying about, oh, what Donald Trump said about Canada. Oh. And my question is, now you care? Now you guys care about Canada? Now you guys care about the longevity of this nation? Now you care about how this is working? Now you care about how that's working? Where was all this caressing when the Canadian taxpayer needed it? Where was all this caressing when veterans needed it? Seniors, the unemployed. How about the 1,400 cities, the 10 cities that are around the country? How about all these 10 cities up in other neighborhoods? And never mind the Los Angeles fire, we had the same thing in Jasper too. Poor management, poor politics, virtue signaling. So I think it's time, ladies and gentlemen, we get rid of the fucking virtue signaling and start showing some real unity when it comes to these idiots. Right? Funny thing, and when I was driving today at my job, I was going through my messages, and apparently CRA called me. CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency. So I'm like, how the hell did they find me? I don't recall giving them my cell number. Anyhow, it was somebody from Newfoundland, from the Newfoundland office, or somewhere in Newfoundland. I saved the message just to play it for my wife later. And I'm thinking, okay, why is this person in Newfoundland who works for the CRA calling me when I live in Alberta? Do I owe some Newfies some money? Who knows? But it just got me thinking. It just goes to show how unorganized these bureaucrats really are. Right? So, kind of proves my point. So if anybody that is on the die-hard liberal side of things, that promote the whole liberalism and think that Carney and Trudeau and all those all the klutzy clans are doing such a great job for this king and for country and what have you, guess again. Okay? We're not getting the satisfaction. We're not getting the value for our dollar, and we're not getting the value for our votes. Now, I know Poilievre has been kind of quiet. A lot of conservatives have been quiet. My friends at Northern Perspective just had a great conversation with Andrew Scheer. Okay? But a lot of them are just talking points still. We're going to need some action, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to need some action pretty quick. Right? It's getting ridiculous on how some of these people are getting away with the crap. Right? If Mr. Carney was smart, he'd be spending more time on the CBC and CTV talking about wonderful things that he has planned if he does run or if he does win. But give or take, let's hope that he's only the PM for maybe a week. Then they call an election. You know? So, my guess is probably May we'll have a new prime minister and a new, how do you say, regime calling the shots for this country. I would love to run again for the Veterans Coalition, but I'm weighing the odds with that right now. I'm not getting enough feedback from some of my constituents, and you know, this area of the province has always been staunch conservative, and that's fine. You know, that's not a big deal for me. You know, I get along with the conservatives just like I get along with with traditional Liberals. Heck, I had some decent conversations with some NDPers there a year ago, and when I was running in 2021. So there are decent people out there that want to take a seat and do some good. However, it's the leadership that sucks. And we got to sort that the fuck out, ladies and gentlemen. Right? So when they harp about this race, a lot of it's just bells and whistles, and it's got nothing to really do with this democracy. And thankfully, as I mentioned before, we have somebody like Daniel Smith who is really making the effort to update the border, to look after security, and keeping the talks open with Mr. Trump. Right? So that's a good thing. Someone's taking the initiative. Screw Doug Ford. You know, have some cheesecake, Dougie. You had your fucking chance. There's a lot of good people I know still in Ontario, like family and friends, that deserve a hell of a lot better. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 15th of January for another VIDS on the Fly, number 6. Who cares? Exactly. Who cares who gets into the Liberal brand? Because the Liberal brand is effing dead. So as you can see behind you there, I'm driving down the highway. It's a beautiful night. I go home, have a nice dinner with my wife, clean up my face. I did some oil changes today, so I'm a little stinky with motor oil. But anyway, all's good. But I will this weekend have a proper podcast, at least 2 of them up. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to do another live again, but I want to thank everybody who came out to my last live stream there last Tuesday. Much appreciated. I love yous all for that. And I'll try to get more up when I can. But things are getting tight financially, that is too. So that's where you wonderful people come in. If you want to donate to the podcast, links are in the description. Don't be shy. Donate what you can. You know, if you can keep a regular donation up every month, that would help me out a great deal too. But like I said, I've been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 15th of January, 2025. As I'm looking out in the highways, just seeing the beautiful light. It's nice. You know, it's calming. But hope you all have a good night. Look after your friends and your loved ones. Do what you can. Help each other in these trying times. We will find the light in this manufactured darkness, ladies and gentlemen. Just focus on the prize. That is all. Like I always say, ladies and gentlemen, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care. I'll see you this weekend.